In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, I'm going to share my thoughts on the opening weekend for the 2023 NBA 2k24 Summer League in Las Vegas. It has been a very interesting week, to say the least. Very hyped up, a lot of expectations, and unfortunately, there's been some injuries that have impacted the games. But stay tuned to hear my thoughts on the opening weekend from Las Vegas. Big shout out to each and every person that's made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board. I am going to try to power through this episode. My throat hurts. My voice feels a little raspy. I've been doing a lot of talking. If you've ever been to Summer League, you know it's just constantly just bumping into people in the basketball world. It's like a homecoming in a sense, people that you haven't seen since last year. So it's always a great experience, and so my voice is a little raspy. But anyway, let's get into this opening weekend from Las Vegas. Very, very hyped up, highly anticipated. I mean, the way the NBA set the schedule up, you had Wembanyama versus Brandon Miller on Friday night, and then you had what was supposed to be Wembanyama versus Scoot Henderson. The Thompson twins were supposed to face each other, and unfortunately, some of the games haven't lived up to the hype, and then injuries have played a role. But let's talk about the first night. It was Friday night. It was a matchup between the top two picks, Victor Wembanyama and Brandon Miller, or you can say the Spurs versus the Hornets. And the game started, I want to say 5, maybe 7 o'clock local time in Las Vegas. I had just landed, so I was still on Central Time. But the first game, 90 minutes before the first game, I should say. 90 minutes before the first game. It's 100 degrees. It's Las Vegas. It's July. It was hot. And the line was wrapped around the corner. I mean, I still think there was like 3 or 4 more games before the big game that everybody wanted to see. And it's just shows how tremendous the growth has been, and just the Victor Wembanyama impact. The hotels are higher. I feel like the Uber rates and cab fares are a little bit higher. I mean, the Wembanyama buzz has been, it's been amazing. Almost unfair to a sense because the expectations are so high. And the first game the first game between Wembanyama and Brandon Miller, and I would just be totally honest, it was a disaster. You had this matchup that was hyped. Well, I would say it was necessarily as hyped up as Game 2 would have been between Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson. But you had the top two picks, and it was all about Wembanyama making his Summer League debut. I mean, there was Wembanyama jerseys all across the strip. There was a lot. It sounded like a Spurs crowd. It sounded like everybody there was rooting for San Antonio. And I've been coming to Summer League for 11 years. Usually the home crowds are like Laker fans or Golden State fans or Sacramento fans. And then Portland does have like a pretty decent fan base that attends. A lot of times it's just, people just coming to watch good basketball. But this game sounded like it was a pro Spurs crowd. Everybody was there to see Wembanyama. And unfortunately, the game was a dud. It reminded me of like this hyped up boxing match between these two fighters that everyone wanted to see with a title belt on the line, and they just kind of sat there and threw jabs the entire game, and nobody really landed any power punches. That's probably the best way I can describe it. And I'm in Vegas, which is the fight capital of the world, and that's what it was like. I mean, Wembanyama, he looked rusty, he looked out of sync, and I could imagine how crazy his schedule has been over the last month or so. And I saw that he made a comment that it's been probably less than 50% basketball. I even heard that he turned down some opportunities to go to the top parties because he wanted to get his rest. But yeah, I mean, he looked out of sync. And if you were someone that was not a Wembanyama guy, you thought he was overrated, this was like your game. All his flaws and concerns are on full display. Like I said, he settled for a lot of threes. He hit the floor a lot. He got pushed around. And, social media is wild. So you start seeing all the talk about him being a bust. I'm getting messages from people that are like casual basketball fans that tuned in and they were saying he's too skinny. Why isn't he playing in the post and so on. So all the concerns about Victor Wembanyama, full display. And the same thing for Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, if you were someone that was pro-Scoot and you thought the Hornets were making a huge mistake by passing on Scoot Henderson, then Brandon Miller's performance, which was not his worst performance of the weekend, also gave you reason to doubt what San Antonio was going on. And then it didn't help that Scoot had a good start to his game, but he ended up getting hurt. Now, I'll touch on that later on. But yeah, Victor struggled. He struggled attacking the rim. He showed flashes of his ball handling, but it was probably one of the worst performances that you could have considering the hype. Finished 2 of 13 from the floor. It was at one point where I felt like he lost his confidence a little bit in the fourth quarter. And I've been following Vic for years, and that's something that I've really never seen him do is lose his confidence. They tried him in the post. They tried putting him in isolation. They tried putting him in action plays. He struggled a little bit against James Nagy, who's like smaller, obviously smaller, but stronger. And you just saw where it's like, all right, if he can get by guys, he's not strong enough to take the bump. He's not going to be able to post up. I mean, those are all the chatter. And then let's talk about Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, at the end of the third quarter, he was 3 of 12 from the floor. He had 11 points, 8 rebounds. I mean, he finished with 16 points and 11 boards, but he was 5 of 15, and 10 of his 15 shots were from 3, and he only made 3 out of 10. And it was just a situation where these two guys that had all the hype just didn't live up to it. Miller's stat line was okay, but he has not looked like a number 2 pick so far. He struggled. I mean, the Charlotte team was a mess. Don't get me wrong. That team is an absolute mess right now. And I mean, it started off in the California Classic. Just not a big fan of the roster construction, even though they have 2 guys that are, I don't want to say it's their 3rd Summer League. It should be, but I think James Bouknight, Mr. Summer League. But anyway, long story short, the first game didn't live up to the hype. But the game before that was the Portland Trail Blazers and the Houston Rockets. And that game had a great finish. Jabari Smith had I guess it was like a half-court shot. I was there at the game, but my seats were behind the rim, so I couldn't necessarily see exactly where he shot it from. Now, I've been someone that has expressed my doubts about Jabari Smith, and I even after the first half of the first game, I thought Jabari is going to need someone to set him up. I went at halftime to get something to eat, never made it back to my seat. And next thing you know, he had 25 points, hit the game winner. Then he backed it up with another strong game in game 2. He's at the point where he should not play any more Summer League games. If you're a Rockets fan, you have to be really, really encouraged by his play. And Scoot Henderson got off to a good start. I mean, you saw his ability to get to his spots on the pull-up. Didn't finish with the most efficient stat line. But you saw the hype. You saw that he's ready. He has the NBA body. I do think that he's going to have some advantages over Brandon Miller as a rookie because he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more, and especially if Dame Lillard gets moved. But I think that it was a good game, and unfortunately, Thompson and Scoot Henderson, the 3rd and 4th pick in the draft, both are injured and probably done for the Summer League. So that's a disappointment. But in the action that they played, I mean, they showed why people were so excited about their upside and potential. Thompson is, we know he's a phenomenal athlete. He can pass, he can rebound. And I thought he played extremely well, considering that the knock on him and his brother don't have big experience or, a lot of big game experience. So I thought they played well. When we return, I want to talk about Wembanyama versus Scoot Henderson, what was expected or supposed to be Wemby versus Scoot round 3, and it didn't happen. But first, let me talk to you about Ibotta. Now, if you're picking up hamburgers and hot dogs for a barbecue, why not get cash back for it? And you can do that with Ibotta. It is officially summer, and by the temperatures in Dallas, where I live, in Las Vegas, it is definitely summer because it's over 100 degrees. And a new season means new clothes. So if you want to buy some shorts, or you just need to just change your wardrobe because maybe you're in better shape than you were last year, now your clothes don't fit, or maybe you're just not in as good a shape as you were in last year and your clothes don't fit, you can get cash back with each purchase with Ibotta. Or if you want to take that summer vacation and you dread buying all the necessities that you need before going on vacation, you can get money back with Ibotta, because Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items and produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you are purchasing. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop, and you can get cash back. It is that easy, because the average Ibotta user earns $120 a year in cash back, which could cover the cost of a shopping trip, or you can use that to buy a flight, even though these flight prices are extremely high right now. Or maybe it's a game that you want to go to, or dinner that you want to attend with your family, or a date, whatever. You can get cash back, and you can use that money that you're saving from Ibotta to, buy whatever you want to buy. Other apps, they give you points that don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you get real cash back. And it goes to your bank account, it goes to PayPal, or you can use it in gift cards. So again, you can earn cash back on online brands and retailers when you start with Ibotta, whether it's Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta. Use the code LOCKED, LOCKED, when you register. That is Ibotta.com. Just go to the Apple Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED. That is Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store. And again, use the code LOCKED, LOCKED. Big shout out to each and every person that's made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. In tomorrow's episode, me and my guy Richard Stayman, we will wrap up or share our thoughts on another day of great action here at the Las Vegas Summer League. So let's talk about yesterday's game, the San Antonio Spurs versus the Portland Trail Blazers. Supposed to be Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama, round 3. The first game in Las Vegas back in October was one of the more historical games that I've attended in person, or maybe even just seen. It's something that I will never forget. It was the game between, the projected top 2 picks, and it lived up to the hype. I don't remember the exact stat lines, but both guys just put on a show to the point where at that point I thought some people felt like, I know Wembanyama goes number 1, but Scoot Henderson is 1A. Scoot showed an improved jumper. I mean, it was just a tremendous game. Wembanyama finished with over 30 points. He showed the skill set that a lot of people have been hyping. I mean, just a skill set that we've never seen before. And then, unfortunately, in the second game, which is 2 days later, Scoot Henderson gets hurt early. Wembanyama puts on another 30-point show, hit multiple three-pointers. I mean, he's hitting fadeaway threes. He's blocking shots. And that kind of led to the Wembanyama hype train reaching just enormous levels, to being on the NBA app and so on. So the game yesterday, or Sunday, was supposed to be round 3. Scoot, unfortunately, is hurt. He got hurt in the second game, got hurt this game. And I felt like it was a lot of pressure on Victor because, he just had the horrible 2 for 13 game just 2 days earlier. Again, the bus talk, social media turned it to a thing where you either pro-Victor or you were saying that, hey, I knew this all along. He's too skinny. Actually sat next to a guy. He was actually pretty irritating. Sat next to a guy. He was on the phone the whole time of the game. And he said, see, that boy too skinny. That boy don't know how to play. He's soft. He's not tough enough. This isn't even against NBA competition. Then he went on to say that Chet Holmgren would dominate Victor. And I wanted to say, did you see the under-19s in 2 years ago? Probably not. But anyway, long story short, I felt like it was a lot of pressure on Victor, even though it's a summer league game, even though it's a meaningless game in a sense. It's not going to count. We've seen numerous stars that turn out to have really good NBA careers, not have great summer leagues. But I just feel like with the pressure and the hype surrounding Victor, he needed a bounce-back game. And it started to make me wonder if he plays well, they probably shut him down. If he plays bad, they're definitely going to shut him down and not let him play a game 3. And Victor was the Victor that people came to see. Finished with 27 points, 12 rebounds, 9 of 14 from the floor. He hit pull-up jumpers. He showed like his length, just stuff that he can do that other people can't do, and just how fast he gets off the ground. And even though he doesn't have to jump very high, I mean, there was a couple plays where he got like tipped it to himself and was able to get the tip dunk. He showed he could run the floor, knock down some threes. And the first half, I thought he had a good first half. Again, I go out in the second half just to say what's up to some people. Didn't make it in for the second half. But I could hear the roar of the crowd. I mean, I could hear every time he did something good. I knew it was a Wembanyama play. Then I made it for like the last minute of the game and looked at the stats and saw he finished with 27 and 12 and went back to my room, watched some film. And that is the Wembanyama that I think that that's the Wembanyama that everybody came to see, showed his impact on the defensive end, still hit the floor a little bit, but he just showed that he can score in a variety of ways. And San Antonio is going to have to get him on the move. And, he can exploit like mismatches in the post. But I thought that was a really, really, really good performance by Wembanyama. Just unfortunately, Scoot Henderson didn't play. And I know it's early, and I know I'll probably get some flack for this. And the injuries haven't been major, but Scoot Henderson has been the injury-prone player so far over the last year that people thought Victor would be. Everyone thought Victor would be the guy that, because of his frame and how thin he is, would be the one that would be missing time with knick-knack injuries here and there, while Scoot has the NBA-ready body, and he's missed time with an ankle injury. I mean, again, they're minor injuries, but the ankle injury, the nasal fracture, now it's the shoulder injury, and so on. Way, way, way too early to be concerned, but I feel like as a basketball fan, we've been robbed of some early meaningless matchups between Scoot and Victor. And I know for me personally, I've tried to watch Scoot. This will be my 6th time trying to watch him play, and I've only been able to see one game in one half. But if you're Portland, you have to be encouraged by what you saw. And then also Shaedon Sharpe. In the first game, Shaedon Sharpe really impressed me with just the effortless shot that he has. I mean, it's so easy for him to get it off. He creates space. I mean, he looks like he's jumping off a trampoline. Great body. I fully understand why Portland was very reluctant to put him into any type of trade discussions. And as a person that grew up a Blazers fan, on one hand, I can see why Portland decided, hey, we would love for Dame to come back, but we're not giving up our young pieces for a short-term fix. And it's almost like, hey, Dame, we want you to come back, but if you decide to go, we're fine because we have some exciting young players, and of course we want a good package in return for you. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the whole Damian Lillard saga. But again, I like what Shaedon Sharpe did the first game. Now yesterday, against San Antonio, he struggled, but you can still see the shot creation and his ability to score. I think he's going to be a 20 to 25 point scorer in the very, very near future. All right. When I return, I want to talk about a few other rookies that caught my attention. I know not everybody has had the opportunity to play multiple games, but just a few rookies, and I just want to share my thoughts on the opening weekend from Las Vegas. Stay tuned. Last segment. All right. I want to talk about Keyonte George. Now, I've been a huge Keyonte George fan since I first saw him play when he was like a freshman in high school. Keyonte has been a player that I've become somewhat of an apologist for. I know when there were knocks on him about, oh, he's not athletic, he can't blow by guys, and there were so many concerns, and I would always point out that the ankle injury hampered his play, really limited what he could do. And then I also mentioned that he had put on some weight. And I think he just put on weight to bulk up for, a physical or tough Big 12 conference. And he realized that that wasn't good weight, which is something that I think that we're so quick to say, oh, this guy needs to put on weight. He needs to get stronger. But sometimes you can put on weight and it's not good weight. I think it's better for it to be gradual and you maintain your athleticism and quickness and mobility than it is for you to just hurry up and put on weight. And I feel like that's what Keyonte did. And I think it's something that, we're going to hear about with Victor and Chet is that, oh, they need to put on weight. But I would much rather them put it on gradually and maintain the athleticism and flexibility that made them good. And so with Keyonte, you could see that the weight that he put on at Baylor limited his first step, his explosiveness, his burst, and finishing out around the rim. And now he has it back. Keyonte is back. And I remember, and I've talked about it before, I remember debating with people that question his athleticism, showing them videos of him in high school jumping over people and dunking and playing above the rim. And they were shocked by it. But now you see how much the weight impacted that. I mean, he caught a lob in the game against the Clippers that just showed how athletic and explosive he is. But that wasn't the highlight of his game. He finished with 33 points on 12-24 shooting, also handed out 10 assists. He just showed his ability as a shot creator and a shot maker. Jazz fans have to be thrilled. And I mean, I was in the arena and I've watched just, Jazz social media, which I've gained a big Jazz following over the last year. Utah Jazz fans, I know you're excited about Keyonte George. And you got Keyonte with a steal. You got a lottery pick in Keyonte. His body looks phenomenal. I mean, that has been the talk of, I guess, the people that have followed Keyonte's career. Like I heard one agent tell me, he says, man, he's got cuts in his arm. He's never had cuts in his arm, and he looks great. And here's the thing about the Keyonte situation. He pretty much did it all on his own. I know he was in a situation where he switched agents mid-summer, but the dedication of working on his body was something that he really did on his own. It wasn't like an agency that, I guess that agency did have a little bit of say in the beginning, but before he left to go train with the agency, he was doing a lot of just work on his own in Dallas. And I mean, like I said, he's in tremendous shape. The concerns about his athleticism, I think he's quieted those. The concerns about the passing and the decision-making and ability to play point guard, I think that, those naysayers are a little quiet right now because in the game against the Clippers, he had 10 assists and only 2 turnovers. So I'm looking forward to seeing Keyonte's second game. His younger brother, in a sense, his childhood friend, I think they're like a day or two apart. They've grown up with each other. And they've spent every birthday with each other since they've known each other, except the last 2 was Cason Wallace. And Cason had a huge game. I actually spoke to Cason afterwards, and he did not have a single practice with the Thunder. Did not practice with the team because they had to wait until the trade got finalized. And in his opening game, played 27 minutes, scored 20 points, was 7 of 15 from the floor, but was 6 of 10 from 3. He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and I thought that Cason looked good. I wonder about where the minutes are going to come from with the Thunder. I've had this discussion since he was drafted there, and from what I heard, just an opinion, is that they're eventually going to phase Dort out because they don't think that, I'm talking about Lou Dort, they don't think that he has enough offense, and this is just one person's opinion, but they believe that Cason will take Dort's spot, and then Dort is someone that the Thunder could possibly move. But if you move Dort, what are you going to get? More picks? I think they have 35 picks in the next 7 years. So very interesting what's going to happen in Oklahoma City because they just have so much talent. Even Ousmane Dieng has played extremely well. So just what's going to happen in Oklahoma City Thunder is something that I will keep an eye on. Then you had Toumani Camara. Toumani is someone that came on the podcast a few weeks back. And he impressed in his debut. I know he was one of the later picks in last month's draft, but he ended up signing a contract. I think that he has a chance to really crack the Suns' rotation next year. He scored 20 points on 8 of 13 from the floor in his first game, also grabbed 8 rebounds. I thought that he looked good, even though He only shot 1 of 4 from 3. He's someone that I'm going to continue to watch throughout the summer because I think he's going to outplay a lot of guys that were drafted ahead of him. Hunter Tyson looked good in 2 games. He's averaged 18.5 points per game. I actually caught a little bit of the Nuggets game yesterday against the Hawks, and Hunter Tyson is someone that I missed on. I'll be honest, I missed on Hunter Tyson. I thought he was going to be a solid player. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I thought he was going to be someone that goes undrafted, has a solid summer league, makes the team, but spends the majority of the year in the G League, which is it's still possible that he could spend a lot of time in the G League, but he's ready. I think he's ready to come in and provide some minutes for the Nuggets. But I mean, he's definitely been good. Jalen Wilson in 2 games, 17.5 points per game. Had this discussion about Jalen yesterday, and it's like either you like Jalen Wilson or you have concerns. It's easy to point out his flaws. The person I spoke with was like, man, he's a below-the-rim finisher. He doesn't have the athleticism to survive. It's all going to depend on his shooting because if he's not knocking down shots, what is he? And so far, I mean, he's shooting 44% from 3 over 2 games. But again, the 17.5 points, 6.5 rebounds. We know he can pass. We know he's a winner. I mean, he's won at Kansas. So Jalen Wilson has definitely caught my attention. Cam Whitmore has been a mixed bag, which, it's 2 games. It's expected. We know Cam can score. We definitely know he can put the ball in the basket. NBA-ready body. The three-point shooting hasn't been there so far. He's shooting 30% over 2 games. And the biggest concern is the passing, but he's had 2 assists. I know he had a tough outing the first game, but Cam Whitmore is someone, obviously, Houston got a steal with him at number 20 because he was expected to go as high as top 5. Colin Castleton has been impressive. I thought if you watched Colin in the California Classic, you saw the flashes. And so far, 17 points per game. He's shooting like 66% from the floor. I had a chance to speak with him just in the area, bumped into him, and Colin Castleton is huge. Now, I've been wrong before. I've been wrong plenty of times. But I think Colin Castleton is going to be the Lakers' backup center by the end of the season. Now, there are rumors that the Lakers could go after like Bismack Biyombo or Bobo or Christian Wood, and I know they've already signed Jackson Hayes. But I believe that Colin Castleton could be the Lakers' backup center by the end of the season. And you never know, Anthony Davis, he could be the starting center. But Castleton is someone that before he broke his hand was averaging 25 points per game in his previous 4 games. He can rebound. He's big. He is a very underrated passer. He finds cutters. And I think Colin Castleton is going to be the steal. And let me give you a little correlation here. And maybe it's coincidence, but I'm here to say I don't think it's a coincidence. Colin Castleton is represented by Aaron Riley and Reggie Berry. 2 great guys. 2 absolutely great human beings to know in the basketball world. They represent a guy by the name of Austin Reeves, who went undrafted and goes to the Lakers, starts off on a 2-way, ends up with a standard contract, and you know the rest is history. Austin signs like a $56 million deal, I believe. Colin Castleton, there are some similarities there. Goes undrafted, is playing well in Summer League. I think Colin is going to impress in camps. I don't understand why people weren't as high on him. He moves well, great size, again, the passing. And I guess the concern is he doesn't necessarily space the floor like you want. But I think in due time, he will be able to. But long story short, I think Colin Castleton is going to take minutes away from Jackson Hayes. I could be wrong, but if I'm right, remember where you heard it first. Then I want to talk about Anthony Black, another kid from Dallas that I've known or I followed for years. Anthony Black looked impressive in his first game. And watching Anthony Black in, I guess, somewhat NBA space, you see why Orlando was so high on him. He's very unique because he has this pace where you can't speed him up. has a high IQ. I mean, just the way he whips passes across the floor, the game looks slow to him. It looks easy to him. And he's a very sneaky athlete. Even though his game isn't based off of athleticism and just like blowing by guys, he's just a unique in the sense that you can't slow him up, plays with great pace, uses his size, is able to get to the basket when he wants to. And I mean, I thought that he looked impressive. Like, there were some people that were shocked that he went that high in the draft. But based off of one summer league game, it's like you can see what their vision was with him. But, I mean, it's a log jam with all the guards that they have. I saw he knocked down a pull-up jumper off the dribble. I know he made one of his 2 3-point attempts. And he dished out, I don't know how many assists he had. 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. Again, I thought Anthony Black, if I were giving out grades, I would give Anthony Black an A+. Leonard Miller, I don't understand why Leonard Miller fell. I would have had Leonard Miller as a top 20 pick. I mean, when you see Leonard walking around, and he may not look like a high energy effort guy, is maybe like an acquired taste because you don't know, some people don't know exactly what he is. But in his first game, 16 points, 11 rebounds, which, you know, if you've been following Leonard Miller, you know he can clean the glass. And I thought Leonard showed why I was so high on him. Got off to a tremendous start. Then Amen Thompson, in his one game, and unfortunately his one and only game, 16 points, 5 assists. I thought he played really well. You understand why Rockets fans are so high on him. Jordan Hawkins had 15 points in his first game. Only thing is that he's just been shooting a lot of threes, which, you know, is expected. Half his shot has been threes, so but he had 16 points. Jordan Walsh had 50. He's averaging 15 points over 2 games. Had a really, really good opening game where he just knocked down open threes. I mean, that's going to be a role for him as a defender. If he can knock down open threes, I think he has a chance to crack the Celtics rotation. But the shooting has come a long way. I know that in the Boston workout that he had, which is maybe a reason why they drafted him, I heard he made 72 out of 100 threes. And my rule of thumb, or at least my thought process behind it is when a guy shoots 100 threes, I take whatever number that he made, I divide it by 2 or cut it in half, and then that's kind of like my reference as best case scenario for him as a shooter. So if Jordan made 72, then that puts him, you know, around league average as a 3-point shooter. So, I mean, I've seen guys in the gym knock down 90. I've seen guys knock down 80, which, you know, if they can make 80 consistently in a, you know, 5-spot, 103-point drill, that makes him a 40% shooter. But I said all that to say this. I think if Jordan can be a league average 3-point shooter with his athleticism and defense, and he's an underrated passer, I think there's a real role for him in the NBA. Scoot Henderson, 15 points, but he was 5 of 13 from the floor. You got Jalen Pickett, who was a surprise pick. He just playing Jalen Pickett basketball. And then there's Imani Bates. Now, we know Imani can score. The percentage and efficiency has not been good at all, but, you know, it's Imani Bates. But I think that for him, he's taking a lot of threes, and it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with him. I think he's still going to end up in the G League. And then there's Gigi Jackson, who has shot the ball well from 3, and Gigi doesn't pass. he doesn't pass. But I think he's had some really, really good moments. He's showed the talent and the ball handling, the athleticism. And I think he's actually played better in the summer league than he played at South Carolina. I mean, he had some really impressive games at South Carolina. The next step for Gigi is learning how to pass and when to find his shots. And he's an uber confident kid that's going to put it up and let it fly. I think there was like a stat where he had like 30-something shot attempts without an assist. So he got his first assist. But I've been impressed with Gigi's play. All right, well, that wraps up this episode. And actually, before that, I just want to talk about Brandon Miller one more time. Brandon Miller, the number 2 pick, is 28th. I'll say it again. Brandon Miller, number 2 pick, is 28th among rookies in scoring in the summer league. He's only averaging 13 points per game, shooting 27% from 3. 27% from the floor, 17% from 3. If you're Charlotte, do you continue to play him or do you shut him down? On one hand, I get it. Why you play him? He needs the reps. I don't think he's in good shape yet. But then do you shut him down to avoid the extra criticism and maybe it has an impact on his confidence? I don't know. Let me know. If you're following on YouTube, comment and let me know your thoughts. Should Charlotte shut Brandon Miller down or continue to let him play and figure things out? Well, that wraps up this episode. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe. My next episode, it will be me and Richard Stayman, who just landed in Vegas late last night. And we'll see if we can get an episode in the arena. My voice is hurting and I am out.